Hi. Good evening. I like banging this. I think we should get started. So I think the first thing is I never remember anybody's name.
It's Mike Brennan, Mayor.
Mike Brennan, that's right.
Chairman.
So my name's Mark Bayer. I'm the chair of this committee, the Board of Adjustment. I think what I'd like to do, because both applicants for a variance are applying under this, requesting it under the same thing, a hardship, is Mike, could you just go over what a hardship means, what the definition of a hardship is?
Well, the standard y'all have to go by is the request one necessitated by some unusual or special condition in the property that they live on or that they have a house on. And, for example, if there's a big slope on somebody's property and they can't build at the bottom or the top and they need to move over a few feet to find a level spot or something, y'all can approve setbacks or locations possibly that on a piece of property that would not be fit the normal setbacks. The hardship is not self-imposed situation that a property owner causes, like if they built a fence too high and now they want to, and there's no excuse for that other than they just wanted a too high fence, then they have to show to you that there's some hardship in the property that causes them to build a higher than authorized fence. So there just has to be some defect or some aberration or abnormality in the property involved that would justify a person saying to you all, I can't abide by the rules, or I'm not going to abide by the rules because the rules shouldn't apply to me because I have a lot or a piece of property that's odd. Other than that, under the law, they're not entitled to a variance from the code.
Okay. Is there an order, Janice? We should go first?
Yes, Chairman. If you'll notice on the agenda, the first one to go before the board, the first resident would be Mr. Jay Gerber, a homeowner of 111 William Clausen. And on the agenda, you'll see where you would call the meeting to order, get a roll call, and then read the variance request and go on from there.
We meet so often that I never follow the rules. As a matter of fact, I followed the rules so badly last night. My wife dunked me in the water, and I have a wicked ear infection and can't hear very well on my left side. So, so we'll call the meeting to order, and then we'll do a roll call starting.
Weege Henderson.
Gary Palmieri.
Mark Bayer.
Jim Patika.
So let me read the variance request for Mr. Jay Gerber. It's going to take a while. I'm a slow reader. Dear board members, we have lived in Hollywood Park for a little over 2 years now. We bought an older traditional ranch-style home. We absolutely love it. When we first moved in, we added an 800 square foot while keeping with the traditional feel of the house. It sits on a little less than a half acre, and we love everything about the house and the yard. Our little ones do too. About a year ago, we decided that we needed additional storage for our growing family, and we decided that we had enough room to build a traditional storage shed in the backyard. We envisioned a very simple traditional shed with a loft for additional storage that would look great in the backyard. We also knew we were going to buy a golf cart for the kids and needed a place to store it, so I wanted it to have a side door for the golf cart to drive in. I made an honest mistake when we decided to build this shed. I knew that permits were needed when doing licensed work, electrical, plumbing, or HVAC. Because we had pulled a permit for our add-on due to these trades being installed in the add-on, because of that. However, since we weren't going to have those trades and our storage said no electrical, plumbing, or HVAC, I thought that a permit would not be needed. That was my mistake. We began construction and finished about 3 months ago. About a week after we finished the shed is when we received a stop work order. After talking to the city, we discovered that should have pulled a permit for this storage shed. I applied for the permit immediately after getting the stop work order. I was then notified that since the shed was larger than 240 square feet, I needed to pull a detached building permit along with a structural engineer's letter of acceptance. We paid a structural engineer to come out, review our structure, and obtained an acceptance letter that is attached to this application. We then reapplied for the permit. It was at this time that we were also notified of the 80% masonry requirement for the exterior of the building. The shed currently has a fiber cement cladding system installed on the exterior. Part of the reason I'm seeking a variance is the financial burden of tearing off the fiber cement cladding that is currently installed and replacing it with stucco. However, I do have a couple of other reasons for why I'm applying for the variance. Another large reason for this variance is that I believe stucco would not look very good alongside my traditional brick ranch style house. I think it would be an aesthetic hardship that would deter from the look and feel of the property. Don't get me wrong, there are stucco houses in Hollywood Park that look amazing, but they are typically more of a contemporary style house. I think a stucco shed in my backyard would look out of place and would create a large contrast to my main house. If I have to adhere to the 80% masonry ordinance, then my only other option is to install stucco cladding, and I don't think that is a good idea long term for my property or the immediate properties adjacent. One last point that I'd like to make is that I installed fiber cement cladding on my shed because I love the traditional look of the cladding as well as the similar qualities it has to other masonry structures. It is rot resistant, impact resistant, termite resistant, and has similar fireproof qualities to other concrete cladding systems. If installed correctly, it typically lasts 30 to 60 years or longer, which is about the same lifespan of stucco cladding. Fiber cement cladding systems were not very prevalent when this ordinance was adopted in 1984, and I believe this is one reason why it is not listed in the ordinance. Several of the large renovation projects in Hollywood Park in the last several years have used fiber cement cladding in lieu of stucco on portions of the exterior for the reasons above. Another reason I didn't want to go with the stucco cladding was that stucco can sometimes get hairline cracks after a few years and then have to be patched and refinished. That problem doesn't exist with fiber cement cladding systems. In summary, my request for variance is for a few different reasons. Admittedly, the financial hardship I would face if I had to replace the current cladding with stucco is a self-imposed one. However, I truly believe the fiber cement cladding is more aesthetically pleasing with my traditional ranch-style house, and I believe it is a masonry equivalent, given its rot resistance, termite resistance, lifespan, and fireproofing qualities. I appreciate your time and consideration. Sincerely, Jay Gerber. Can I ask who Jay Gerber is? Oh, you're Jay Gerber. Why am I looking at him? I think under the definition of a hardship read by the city attorney, it doesn't qualify as a hardship. And I think, Bruce, I'm going to ask you to just talk about what he says about fiber cement cladding on other homes. Is that an equivalent substitute to
for the stucco or
for stucco
siding
masonry
or the masonry, the brick or stone? In today's market, it actually is just used as an architectural feature. I don't know that it's yes, it is fire resistant. I have a bit of siding on my home. It's 20 years old. It's masonite siding, and it was kind of pre the Hardy plank, the cement board siding that they're using now. The ordinance just reads, it specifically defines masonry as stucco, stone, or brick.
Yeah.
And so in the past, we have several times had to deal with or talk with folks about using call it plank siding, whatever you want to call the siding, but using an excessive amount of siding and desiring to use a cement board siding in lieu of that, but that runs back to the ordinance.
The ordinance clearly states stucco, masonry, or brick, right?
Right.
So
Stucco, stone, or brick, yes, sir.
stucco, stone, or brick.
And we've, in the past, I mean, we have an ordinance committee that's been ongoing for a couple of years, and they take into consideration requests to change the ordinances that's been up for change probably 5 or 6 years now, and the committee nor the council has seen fit to change the ordinance or modify the ordinance.
They're not. They haven't changed
They
it.
haven't changed it.
And it's been discussed before.
It's been discussed. I don't even know if it's even gotten to council other than in unofficial comments. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gerber, did you want to say anything, or you just want to listen and? Yeah, no, I mean you're.
Yes, so I would agree. I understand the intent behind 80%. I think some of it's in
Mr. Gerber, I'm sorry. Could you come up here so that way we can record it? I'm sorry.
So for a main property, I would completely agree with the masonry requirement from leaving the current brick, stucco. The aesthetics on a main property, I think, are what give Hollywood Park its kind of traditional feel. Self-imposed, as we talked about earlier, and I knew that was part of the gig, right? I can't make a mistake and ask for forgiveness. So I guess maybe at this point it's more of a request on the uniqueness of wanting a traditional storage shed that's larger than the arbitrary 240 square feet, but yet isn't a main home or I see, like if this was going to be a single car garage on the side of my house that I was using for, I see those all the time. Their brick fronts or wherever they are. This one is purely in the backyard. If you drive past my house, you can see it on the side a little bit. But from the front of my house, and I've got pictures here, you don't see the shed because it's what it is. It's a storage shed. So in that regard, that's when I learned of what was going on here. It was the application's more of a reaching out from being a storage shed and only that, no garage, no anything like that, and it being in the backyard. And then also just going stucco. I mean, if I ultimately get denied, we'll go stucco, and I just don't know if that's going to look good with what I've kept as the exact facade that I've always had when we bought the house, which is the traditional ranch brick home. So I'm going to be mixing elements aesthetically and architecturally that I think is just not going to bode well for us.
I did drive by there this afternoon, and you're right, you could hardly see it from the road. On the far right, you could see just a little bit. Is there any way you could modify it to meet city codes?
So the 80%, I think, would
You can come up as long as you don't attack.
Yeah.
So for me, at that point, I think to get 80%, I'd be replacing 3 of the walls and probably some of the floor. And so at that point, I'd probably just do the whole thing. I'd probably demo all the siding along with all the trim work, and then I'd bring in a contractor to do the stuff there. I mean, if I do the front, the problem is I don't get the 80%. So I would have to do quite a bit of it. I think there's. You can do 80%, but it's wall also have 30%. I think is the.
Yeah, but the windows and doors, not coordination.
I think that's something. So that may be part of it is picking, is trying to do the minimal. But again, I think once I get to that point, it may even be cleaner just to do the whole thing at that point. I did. I don't know if I pass it on. And I hope someone doesn't slap my hand, but the stop work order came in December or January, and the narrative and stuff is from 3 months ago. Like, it was actually finished back in December, and so it sat in that state for 3 or 4 months, and I got to where the fascia was. I had to get something on the fascia because it was. So I actually, sorry, I may get my hand slapped, but I had to get some paint on the fascia, the wood fascia, because it was going to start. What color is it today? No, this is what I had to do just because, like I said, I started seeing some erosion on the wood fascia.
That was the raw.
That's the raw finish. The only thing I did was I had to get some paint on it just from because I didn't know when we were going to meet. So I thought, man, if this is another 6 months, I'm going to start having to replace fascia at some point. But ultimately, that's the color, and that's what it ultimately is.
I had one like that when I was growing up.
Any thoughts, comments? Any more comments? Were you aware of the size requirements for an accessory building? I mean, this building exceeds what is required, right?
Yeah, when I first was doing this, I was looking at more kind of like a 12 by 12 type thing. Where again, my mistake, I didn't know the 240. I guess when I was envisioning I was thinking more main height. And so when you can't see it from this angle, maybe another picture, but when we said, oh, we want to get a golf cart, and I said, oh, well, we need a place to store it because we don't have room to store it. The other side is when I added on, I said, well, then I need to add on something to park it up on the side. So we added on probably a good 8 feet to that.
So this building, yes, this building was built without a building permit.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
Were you aware that you needed a building permit?
I didn't think so for a storage shed. When we were doing it, I knew it was going to be a storage shed, and electrical and plumbing HVAC. I worked for a mechanical subcontractor in town commercially, so I'm used to pulling permits for trade licensed work. But a storage shed, I thought, going back.
Now, there has been no inspections made, right? No foundation inspection.
I do have
framing.
I had a licensed engineer come out and inspect me from an as-built, inspected the stick framing and inspected the structure and what we did with the slab. And I have an engineer's letter like the storage shed, well, that's only flagged to the side.
That's all I have to say.
Is there any way that you could attach it to the main house? Work with the building inspector and make it.
That's a good question. The roof lines are. This one is shorter, but that was.
Does it have to be
From a concrete standpoint, or is it from a?
building attachment?
Can I just interject? We're not here to solve your problem. So I don't think we can, we should spend our time trying to solve it for him. I think what I have two questions. One is, as I understand it, it says provide a site plan with location of house and building on the lot and dimensions to all property lines. Has that been done?
That has, and it's in my attachment. I have a
So,
survey with that.
so the only thing missing is the fact that it's got bricko. It's either brick, stucco, or stone. You don't have 80% of that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you need a permit for anything over 10 by 12. Is it for a storage shed?
We, by local ordinance, we require permits for any size storage shed. And we limit it to 2 sheds whose total does not exceed 240 square feet. 2 sheds or 1 shed.
And they have to be portable?
No, we took the portable definition out a long time ago. It's a little too nebulous as to what constituted that. So
I don't want to sit in judgment. I feel like I want to be a Judge Judy. You kind of did everything backwards, and I understand where you are today. So I'm going to ask see if we have a motion or if there's more discussion before we do that.
We didn't have any comments? Item number 7 on the agenda is comment.
Sure. Where are we now? So we're at, okay. Have we done the explanation yet of the permit denial? Yes. Okay, it's your turn.
All right, thank you. I'm Scott Boynton at 221 Sunway Drive, here to support the shed in the backyard. Again, I think it's, looking at it logically, and I know you have to consider it a main structure because it's slightly over the, 240 feet? But really, it's a shed in the backyard that's not visible, and it seems like, given the new, again, one question I did have: the 240 feet, 1 or 2 sheds. Is that if it's 2 sheds, can you exceed? Would it be 480?
no.
So that seems a little dated, given our new golf cart ordinance too. If you historically can store 240 feet worth of material or whatever you have, and now we have golf carts all of a sudden introduced, you got to put those somewhere. So that's something else to consider. From I don't know if that qualifies as a hardship. It's the whole city, so probably not. But I guess I'm just up here hoping reason prevails. And I support the shed. It looks great. Can't really see it from the street. And my shed is under 240 feet barely, and it's pretty much the same thing. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there other proponents or opponents? I don't want to mess up this agenda anymore. Everybody's correcting me, and
Elliot Googe, I live at 332 Mustang Circle. Just a few points I want to make. One of them, we just did a renovation, a very large-scale renovation ourselves. We somewhat GC'd it ourselves, so I am, and look, I'm not in construction, I don't work in that world. So the idea of Jay working backwards, I think there's probably several scenarios where we worked backwards ourselves just because it's a lot to, you're not in the business, 100% residential in Hollywood Park. Sometimes it's hard to gather and know everything there is to know about it, even flagboard, and luckily it fit within that need to, but that was just purely because we got lucky. So that's one. Two, I want to second the golf cart thing. I mean, we have a golf cart ourselves. Right now, our golf cart literally sits in the weather, and we're trying to figure out a solution for it. The reality is this is kind of a new thing for Hollywood Park, and we need to kind of address it just because, I think from an overall city standpoint, everybody agrees they're a blast, and we're glad to have them. And I can't tell you one friend I've told about it that now wants to move here or loves that idea. And so just taking that into consideration as y'all are wanting to make a decision. Also, it does look great. It is a shed in the backyard. I think that there's a good chance had we had a golf cart at the time we built ours, there's a good chance we would have tried to extend ours, and we're talking about what is in the 4 square feet right now. Is that what we're kind of talking over? And the last is you guys are a committee, and you're here to kind of collectively make a sensible, right decision. If not, we wouldn't even have committees. I sat on the committee for the Hollywood Park. Park, y'all had a hard job. I've been there. I actually sat on with Scott Boyd, and we went through the whole deal and talking with people, and you just have to make decisions. And so I just ask you guys to consider what's at kind of at stake here and what are we really talking about. And like I said, I really do think it looks good, and yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to add. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Jeremy Dixon, I live at 110 Kenny Creek, right behind Jay. So I have a front view of that shed. It's a storage shed.
Where the heck is... You're on Canyon Creek?
110 Kenny Creek.
So where's... And you're at... Where's Jay? Yeah, and what's your address again? Oh, you're on... Okay, got it. Canyon Creek, yeah.
That's one that it's a storage shed. There's a size determined, but that's not the definition of a shed. Someone came up with that.
I don't think anybody's talking about the size of the shed. I don't think that's the issue at hand here. The issue at hand is the... No, but the... I got you. Okay.
That's what triggers it, right? Yeah. We're talking about square feet triggering financial shit. Sorry, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but also aesthetically, I 100% agree with Jay. And we have some of that same siding. The stucco, my wife's a designer. She'd be the first one to tell you she'd slap his wrist if you put stucco. So what did you do? That doesn't fit with the house. So.
Okay. Well, behind I see the shed. It's a shed.
Okay, thank you. Others? Any other? Okay.
I'm raising kids, but otherwise I'm the wife and I support my husband and our family.
I'm going to resign right now. Thoughts?
Okay, so how big is the shed right now?
The outside perimeter of the actual site
Well,
itself is 24 feet.
and how many square feet over the?
Approximately 100 square feet.
Oh, over what the minimum would be.
Yeah, that's
So am I correct in assuming that all building permits and all that other stuff aside, the only issue here is the siding on this building? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And being in compliance with the 34-year-old ordinance, which clearly does not take into account new building materials?
Sir, that's not correct. Apparently there's a size limit of 240 square feet, and I guess
Either or. It's either the size limit or if you get triggered, then it's
I'm not trying to be in opposition to it. I'm trying to ride the fence on it, but it's not that it's not taking into new materials. I mean, the lap siding's been lap siding for 150 years. This is just a different kind of lap siding.
Correct.
So, it's a combination of The ordinance restricts you to 240 square feet. If you exceed that, then you jump into a different category. And
I understand that.
Okay.
But really the issue, because it is over 240 square feet, the only issue is the siding.
Why is this a hardship? What's a hardship about this?
I hadn't heard it yet, sir.
I haven't either. This sounds like it's self-inflicted. I mean, I hate to be that candid, but it's definitely not a hardship.
Does it improve the value of your property? By, and I realize you're not a professional, but by approximately how much? I am a licensed realtor and have been for 40 years. And my concern with living in Hollywood Park is it's beautiful, it's a wonderful place to live, people are fighting to live here. And, I want to keep the property values up.
For me, so I'm an active licensed realtor as well. We do it for rental properties and things like that. But
Yeah.
for me, I figure, if it was an ancillary garage of $100 to $125 a square foot is what it would take to build it. I did some of it myself. I was in for concrete, do some of that. I did some of it myself. So I would guess probably in the $30,000 range is what I'm. You're not going to get 100% of it back, right? So call it 20 to 25 grand. I think is what it adds to the value of my house. I have it yet to reappraised. I'm not planning on moving or selling anytime soon at all.
Refresh my memory. Is there electricity there?
There's no electricity, no plumbing, no HVAC. It's purely a storage shed. I will say this: if and when that way down the road we decide to sell, or at some point down the road we decide that we want, my wife wants to have a craft room or something, I will obviously apply for a permit, and we will, and we have the ability to run electric. There used to be a hot tub circuit back behind there when we did our add-on. We got rid of that circuit, but there's availability in the panel for that. So I think down the road, that's something my wife may put on my honey-do list, and we will go through, obviously, very thoroughly through that. But for now, it is purely a storage shed and nothing like that. But the 96 square feet you're referring to get to 336 was the 8-foot by 12-foot that got added on for the golf cart.
I do know that there's been a lot of information, but I believe that our hardship is that this specific material that we, one, like to look aesthetically, two, believe is durable, is not considered a masonry element. So to me, I think that is a hardship. I feel like it is an acceptable masonry choice, and truly considering, a reasonable request for a backyard shed. I feel like that. I just wanted to throw in that summary from my view. I like how I see.
You did fine.
Anyway, I truly believe this is a reasonable request. There is an element of hardship for sure. And that, as our friend said, we're coming before a committee who does, in fact, have the guidelines and the choice to rule in favor that there is to be a hardship.
So I thank you, and I understand. I'd like to talk about a couple of things, and one of the things you said is guidelines. These are not a guideline. These are the rules that are the city code that we live by, and that we build our homes by, and that keep the community looking a certain way. I had no, and I don't think anybody up here had any input into what those the law says. under the law, as I understand it, this does not qualify as a hardship. And so we don't have the means to judge this any other way. I mean, the law just is the law. And I think I'd like to think that we are, that's what we do, is we live by the law. As far as the 240 square feet, I understand. As far, it's 336 square feet, so no matter how you look at it, you triggered the 80% rule. So that's what we have to judge it by. As far as golf carts go, great. I think they're great, and I think it's, you want a place to put your golf cart, I get that. But again, it does not qualify as a hardship. If there's some other way that you can get a variance, then I would encourage you to do that. This fiber cement, I don't know what it is. I mean, you tell me it's great stuff. I guess it's great stuff. But, there's a process to get that written in, that fiber cement is the equivalent of stucco, brick, or what? Rock. Sorry. So under that, I would ask the folks up here to, do we have a motion to judge this?
I'll make a motion that we vote on.
Okay, so what's the motion?
To deny it.
So we have a motion to deny. Discussion?
I think our job here is to see that the residents comply with codes and ordinances. And there again, if we granted a variance, what happens to the next man that comes in here and said, hey, he put siding on his, why do I have to put stucco on mine? I just think it's a matter of complying with the code. And it's not a hardship, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we go to vote?
Yes, I think it is a hardship, and I think the 34-year-old ordinance is way out of line with current building materials, and I think a variance should be granted.
I feel that if it enhances the property and the value, and it's my understanding that the only thing you need to do is either put masonry, brick, stucco. Why don't we give you the opportunity to do that and then come back and vote on it?
So I'm a little bit confused. So you're saying that they should. We haven't voted yet, but your comment is that they should.
That's my comment. If that's the only issue, why doesn't he comply with the code and then come back?
He wouldn't have to come back.
Well, then, yeah. Why doesn't he just comply with the code? I mean, it looks like it's a nice building.
You're correct, but that's what we... May I say one thing about this cement siding? Mr. Beeler, correct me. All new homes, most of them have this masonry requirement, and they will either put brick, stone, and etc. But usually in the back of the house or on sides that are not visible, to get away with doing 100% masonry, they will use this siding. But in San Antonio, I don't think it's accepted as masonry.
No, it's in most of the cities that we work in, they all have varying amounts of masonry requirements. But the siding, regardless of the siding, type of siding, it doesn't qualify as masonry.
Very well.
And some of the some of the newer subdivisions are anywhere from no requirement for masonry to 25% on from there. In some, a couple places, 100%. And there, like you said, Mr. Chairman, you're not here to solve necessarily everybody's problem, but there are. It's not only stucco. I mean, I understand his concern about not necessarily matching the architectural style of his house. My house, I'm not. You know, I'm not doing some things on my house, but brick would match it, or a brick-like product, or the siding doesn't necessarily have to be taken down to install stucco on top of it.
No.
There are some other options available, I guess.
I mean, synthetic stucco.
So again, I mean, we're not here to solve it. We need to rule on the laws of Hollywood Park. So we have a motion. We've had discussion. I will entertain. You had one more comment.
I was just going to say that, like, I believe that y'all are here to, ensure that people are compliant, but it's called a variance committee for the reason that, to your example, if someone else does this, they get to come and they get to argue their case. And it's not if it was just a blanket law, we wouldn't be here. I mean, there's a reason that we have this here, and it's to look at the facts and look at it and say, we look at the code and we look at what we're trying to accomplish here. Is this devaluing the house? No. Is this a shed? Looks like a shed. It's sitting in the back. It is a shed. What are other facts to the case? There are golf carts now. People are. In fact, I would argue it increased the value more, because if I'm coming here and I know I have to have a golf cart, I'm going to buy a place with a shed that I can fit a golf cart. Most of them can't, because they weren't built for golf carts. So I mean, yeah, there's some compliance, but there's also some of it's a variance committee here to make a decision on a case by case basis that people are bringing and arguing their case. So I would just press that that's why we have you guys, and that's why you guys have chosen to sit here.
Thank you for that. It's all right. That's why we're here, guys. Okay, we have a motion on the table to deny. I think we need to do a roll call vote. Weech?
Well, what about these people that have big trailers and they park them, sometimes they're not within the code, sometimes they are.
So I just like to go back to, we're not here to judge anything else. I would like to. Believe me, I would very much like to do that. But I think we have a motion on the table and we need to vote on it. And so.
You asked for my opinion, I give it to you.
Right, but now I need your
Thank
vote.
you.
What is your vote? To deny or to grant the variance?
I think it's a hardship.
So you vote to grant the variance? Okay. So just for the record, Weege Henderson votes to grant the variance. Gary?
I vote to deny it.
It's 1-1. Helen?
I vote to deny it.
Okay. Doctor?
I vote for the variance.
So let me just say this. I think the shed is beautiful, and I think that actually beautiful is a little extreme, but I think it's a good-looking shed, and I do think that we should be looking at, is this an equivalent material, and should it be adopted into the standard so that we can have the Gerber siding as well. But I don't feel that this is a variance, and I don't have a way to rule differently. I understand your point, but I vote to deny as well.
Mr. Chairman, too, just so everybody knows, in a Board of Adjustment hearing, it requires 4 votes for the side that wins, not just 3.
So we're 3-2. So what do we
go the variance is denied. There were 2 votes for the variance.
It was 3-2.
3-2 to
Correct.
deny, and the vote had to be 4-1 to grant the variance for the variance to pass.
Well, I just learned something new.
Well, I think some people might have felt like a majority vote would control or
Right.
make it, and that's not the way it works with the Board of Adjustment. And that's state law. That's not local code.
We have some other things to change, it sounds like. I'm sorry. I think you had a good argument there. Thank you.
Now we have our second variance request, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, I have to get my paperwork so that I understand what I'm looking at. Oh, that's what. Yeah. They got the first pages switched.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm confused. I thought it was just my normal confusion.
You're right.
Mr. Bill Krupa. So you're requesting you didn't write a
Long letter like he did? No, I needed to.
He doesn't.
I'm kind of appreciative of that.
He didn't need to.
Let's see. So you appealed. I just want to make sure I get the agenda correct. So you're also asking for a variance due to hardship.
Yes.
So so that means that you have to have an unusual or special condition for the property. You understand what was said. Yeah, come on up. And it can't be self-imposed.
I've not built anything yet.
Okay. You're in good shape. Okay, so.
Yes.
Have you applied for permit?
Do you,
And that was part of this whole thing. Let me give you a quick little history. I won't take too long. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my oldest daughters are all getting into high school and graduated in college. My wife and I are looking at, getting a smaller place, getting ready for retirement. 3 years ago, I think it's 2 years ago, we adopted two little girls, 1-year-old. My mother-in-law is at a point now where she's going to be needing to move in with somebody, which will be us. My sister lost her husband a couple years ago. She's going to be moving in with us. So from at a point where we're looking to downsize, now we're looking to expand. I grew up in this area. I've lived in this area all my life. I grew up off of Brook Hollow. Our last home was off of Redland Road. Last year we decided to sell our house, and my wife has loved Hollywood Park forever, wanted a big house, big lot. We looked at probably 15 to 20 homes in here, trying to find something that was what I call a donor home, because I know I need 3 master suites, and I know they don't make a 3 master suite. I'm an architectural designer by trade, and so it doesn't exist. So I knew I was going to have to add on. So every home that we look at, I was always looking at, okay, what is the possibility? How can I add on to this house? Where am I going to have space? My realtor called me one Friday and said, hey, I've got this listing just showed up on El Portal. When do you want to see it? I said, let's see it Saturday. So Saturday at 1 o'clock, we went and looked at it. First thing I saw was this little house sitting on this huge double lot. And I'm like, this is perfect. By 2:30, we had a final deal with the guy and had a contract down. Within 2 days, I already had a design down on what I wanted to do. It wasn't until I think 3 days before closing when we actually got our final survey back, which I'd been asking for the bank to get 20 feet into the yard is where my property line was, and then another 35 feet was the building setback, which all of this area that I wanted to add on and build this house for the family is now going to be grass or trees. And as far as the hardship goes, I try to do as much due diligence as I could, buying a lot, not knowing that. When I did my designs initially, I did take into consideration, I know we have building setback lines, I design homes all the time, and so I did not know it would be near that far, that deep. And so I don't know if the setback for this lot would be considered a hardship, the way it is. I noticed when I did get my survey back, in the back, there shows and I don't have it here, I didn't submit it, but the actual survey I got from at closing, it showed an easement about halfway between the back fence and my house as an easement line, and then it was revised, and now the easement is like right at the back corner of my house. And so I don't know if there's been revisions in the past along the way, but yes,
Easement from what?
it's a rear setback. I'm sorry, rear setback line. Every house, every lot has front setback line, rear, and side.
Yes, correct.
And the back setback line on the survey I received from at closing showed it about halfway the distance between my back fence and where my house is as an old one. Then it shows it was revised several years ago, where now the back of my house, the corner, is actually where the line is, setback line. So I can't even go back anymore. Which, I've got like 25, 30 feet there, The main area is the front of the house that is what I think is the hardship of the lot, that's kind of killing it.
Can you show me
This is the front here. Yep. This is the front, and then this is void here on the side. And see, right here, this is the back fence here, and this is the side here. And on the survey I got from my engineer, or from the engineer that came out to do it, showed a dotted line right along here, right about halfway, showing that was originally a building setback line, and now it's currently here. It was revised at some point in time through some volume, book and record and everything. And so,
So your surveyor, because
So
you
now-
all have to have a surveyor when you purchase a home.
right?
So what,
No.
the surveyor showed which line, this revised
He's
line?
shown this.
So he had the current information. that we
Well,
provided.
somebody wrote on here, this is my writing, somebody wrote 25-foot setback line in the rear, 20-foot side, and 40-foot in the front. That's not my writing. Where this red line is?
That's mine. That's mine.
You did?
The red line and the setback notations are mine.
So how,
How long ago were those revised lately?
No, they've been in place for 40 years, 50 years, 40 years or so.
My current survey shows what I drew with the side setbacks.
Well, the survey may be, I can only speculate, it may be how it was platted, but the local ordinances have been in place for, I know, over 20 years, because I built my house in 90. And
as a designer, they're all online and
Yeah.
accessible.
Well, and I was looking online too, because there's two different ones here. I guess a different part of Hollywood Park has different ones. The Garden Homes, I think it is, or somewhere. But according to this, then 25-foot rear setback, the back corner of the house is then encroaching on it as it is.
I think I'd like to commend you for your, obviously you got the self-imposed hardship, which I'm impressed with. I don't have my mother-in-law living with me, she's not here. And I won't, you've approached us at the right time. You're talking to us,
Well, and I tried to
And
do
you're
this
getting the
before I submitted anything. I spent several $100 on a foundation drawing from the engineer. I came into the city office ahead of time and said, how can I get a variance? I want to, inquire about getting a variance on this. And they said, well, you can't until you're denied. So everything, a week and a half later, they say, okay, you're denied. Okay, well, I knew that.
I'd like to ask Mr. Chair if we could just talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go, Bruce. Here you go. So that way you can.
You got your legs pointing now.
There you go. Now y'all can see.
Is this drawing to scale?
Yes. The original was around a quarter-inch scale, but I had to shrink it down to make it fit on the paper because I couldn't submit my regular size paper. So I don't know what it actually scales out to right now.
I took the plans that I received and I took the scale and as best I could create the red line that you see on here, the red rectangle. That is scaled pretty close to what it is. I mean, I can't give you that whether it's scaled quarter inch, but it doesn't matter. Just it's scaled to that rectangle is about the size of the roof. That's showing the available area in which to build on. Outside of that, outside of that rectangle would be an encroachment. I guess is the basic end of it. So in the rear, in the rear, we've got a 25-foot setback. On the front, it's a 40-foot setback, and these are all from the property line. This is the corner house, so there's a 20-foot setback from the side. This is the side property line to the corner. And then to the neighbor's house over here, that's a 10-foot setback requirement. So what I've done is just try to show that rectangle. That's the available space which is there. So anything outside of those lines would be considered.
So part of the house actually, the existing home is outside.
Part of the house is back corner back here. This one could be right on it again. I wasn't working from the CAD program or anything like that, kind of working with ruler. And this is encroaching. There's plenty of existing properties out here that have some minor stuff. There's old solid apartments, and it's considered the catch term as existing non-conforming. And as long as it stays that way, it's fine.
It's grandfather.
Right. Grandfather is just not the legal term for it, so I just, try to.
How far into the setback are these proposed new building?
At the furthest part of the front, I believe I'm 20 feet now.
20, so you want to go 20 feet into the setback?
Yes. And I'm doing it based on what 35-foot setback, but he's telling me now it's 40. But on my survey at closing, I'm showing 35.
Yeah, on mine it's minimal.
But the other thing too, to keep in mind, I think I have an image on there showing from the street up to the property line is 20 feet. So even with the
math
where it
doesn't
is.
add up. You have so it's 40 feet.
I'm not going to argue that.
This is the street here.
Okay,
From this point to the property line is 20 feet.
From here to your house proposed? From here to
No. From here to here is 20 feet.
Okay, but how much from here to there?
That's about another, I think 12 to 15 feet. So it's going to be about, it's between 30 and 35 feet from the street.
But
From
from
the
the
street.
setback, it's 12 feet,
From the front, yes.
where it should be what, 40?
Yeah.
So 40 to 12. You answered my question.
So, you know what I was going to suggest is, maybe you could sort of resubmit Mr. Beaton with a two-scale drawing and property line scale. You can determine how much they're encroaching in. Because it sounds like it's still a little bit questionable.
It gets turned down, you can't raise it up for 6 months or something. That's another one of those catch-alls.
Well, what I did submit is all to scale.
I know, right?
That's
But
right.
it's all based on what I was given at closing, which I would think would be true and accurate, going through a private company.
we do run into it on occasion, but where some of the problems may exist the stricter of the ordinance, the stricter takes, the city ordinance takes, sorry. The city ordinance takes precedence, and what occurs in some of it is Hollywood Park at one time, and still is, I guess, it's divided into different units. And each unit was basically its own HOA. And the HOAs, in some cases, set stricter setbacks or looser setbacks. They tried, but then the city brought them all together and said, this is what it's going to be. So this is where we are, except we do have a garden home designation, but for the general area, the setbacks are consistent.
But I would like to understand the math first, if I may walk over here. This is the 20 feet, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then this distance is the 12.
Wait, hang on one second. Mr. Beeler, could you weigh in as to which is the 20 feet?
There.
Into the street
to the property line.
That's 20.
If you're saying it, I don't know. The street is a right of way, and that's the right of way is from the property line. So that the pavement is not an indication of where the right of way is.
Right. So the street, if you go out and measure the street, that's not where the property line starts. The property line is designated at some point. It's from the property line back 40 feet is where your setback is.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That was it? Okay. Right. That's okay. Any other? Yes, sir. Approach the lectern so I can hear you. Otherwise, I won't hear a thing. It probably won't help.
I'm John Jones, and I'm at 344 Meadowbrook. I'm right behind y'all. Okay. As far as the setbacks and stuff, I really don't have a problem with how you work that out. I know you've got 2 lots.
Right.
Could you design it to where you could take up the other lot, part of it?
Yes. I can cover the whole thing. But what's going to hurt even more then if that 40 foot is actually a current setback line where that's another 5 feet I'm losing. I'm trying to maintain the existing structure of the house without tearing it all to the ground and starting all over again.
Right. Well, I don't have a problem with what you do. The only thing I would request is if you put up an 8-foot privacy fence.
In the back?
Yeah.
I was going to do 6, but...
Well, I don't think 6 will do it because we'll still be looking at the back of your house.
Well, it's probably be 1 story high.
So, excuse me, I think you guys are getting way ahead of the game here. You're designing the whole street. I think we're here to talk about the variance. I know you said you had 2 lots, and I think you're only showing us 1 lot. Am I seeing 2 lots here and I just don't see it, or I'm just curious?
A little bit. This one's the only one that you got the idea that it was there.
Ain't going to happen.
Right about here, this is the second lot.
Okay.
It's right in here.
That screwed up the whole thing.
I think all platted has 1 lot, but it was 2 lots at one time.
So is that showing both lots together, or?
So, wait, but it's platted as a single lot?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's a swimming pool back in the corner here that was converted to a pond at one time.
I would, all of a sudden that confused me. I knew the lot was oversized, but if you say it's two lots, and that screws the whole thing up again, so don't. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so it's platted as one. Platted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're my new customer?
My name is George Blucher. I live at 328 El Portal, down the street. My concern is that we've got a structure on the property now, and if y'all been out really in the neighborhood, when it rains hard and we get a lot of watershed, it comes hard towards my house. And I've done some stuff in my yard, French drain, to make it move. And so my issue with it is we're taking ground area that could take watershed, and we're building on top of it. And so where does that extra water go? It comes straight towards my home. And so if we're looking to improve drainage or something like that, but I have a problem with just the watershed, because it really comes down. And I know that I tried to build a shed or something off a property line. I didn't get any luck with it either. But I guess the fortunate thing on that piece of property is that you do have that extra lot, and if it had to be redesigned, you're trying to add 2 master suites and I guess 2 master type bathrooms too. The possibility is still there within the bounds of the property. And even though I guess there was a survey on the property, and I guess it was before closing. Yeah. I assume so. The survey says what survey says. So I would move to. I wouldn't want it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank you. There's a maximum square footage you can put on a lot? It's like,
you can cover up to a third of the lot.
Up to a third of the lot. Does this exceed that?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. You have to leave a third of the lot in the backyard open.
A third of the lot in the back open.
Yeah, so they can build. Like I said, he can build just about anything within inside that rectangle.
It's encroaching everywhere. Can a motion be made to not even consider?
Well, that's.
Yes.
No, I mean.
Yes.
Well, no, y'all can't just say we don't know what to do, so we're not doing anything.
No, I don't think that's what Gary read. I think. Gary, I think you're just suggesting you want to make a motion. Is that
yes,
all right?
I do.
And the motion would be
to deny it.
Okay. All right. So can we have discussion on motion to deny? Is there any discussion? You don't have to unless you want to.
Pardon?
You don't have to discuss it unless you want to.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'd like to find out more information. How big of a home are you wanting to add on? Total square footage.
Total square footage would be about 6,000 square feet of living area.
Ooh, that's big.
Got lots of people living there. If the distance that you're saying is an issue, only leaving 12 feet between the property line and the house, is there an acceptable distance that could be approved to encroach over the property, over the building setback line?
So that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. But well, actually, I think we do. We're not going to be in a position to give you that answer. We can rule on the rules. Well, we can put that up for a vote. But let me ask the city attorney.
Apparently the front yard setback is 40 feet. That's what the code calls for, and he wants to reduce that down to 12, as I understand the request. Since the notice to the public is that he wants to reduce, he wants to just have 12. If you all wanted to approve him at 20, you could, or anything less than 12. You couldn't say, well, don't worry about the front yard setback at all. You can just build right up to that front line. You couldn't go that far, but you could go anything less than the 12 that he's asking. 12 or less, you could do.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table to deny the variance requests, and we've had discussion, and I'd like to take a vote. We'll start on the other side, Wage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How about to deny?
One to deny.
I vote to deny.
I vote to deny.
I vote to deny.
Variance is denied. The variance is denied.
With that
Thank
being
you.
said, Mr. Chairman, when you adjourn the meeting, I just need the time, sir. Got it.
Thank you.